Arsenal. This is where we see if this is all real with Arsenal, Adrian Clarke. And I'll start with you here first, and let's take a look at the betting. Favourites, AC. They weren't during the week, but following a pretty good performance against Villa, which probably should have won by more, they're 2.68. United are 2.8, 3.6 to draw. The main handicap is draw no bet here. There's a bit of margin in this because we're recording this on Thursday, so we don't know how Manchester United have got on at the King Power. So we're just going to have to leave up that to lap of the gods. And the margin is kind of reflecting that at the moment. 2.5 is the total and shaded towards the over. AC, you think the Gunners can go up here and get a result at Old Trafford? It's not going to phase them. You believe?
I don't think so. No, I mean it's not been a particularly happy hunting ground, but in the same breath, they often go to Old Trafford and score. I think they've scored on their last 8 visits, and the way that they're playing, I think they'll go there looking to score more goals and put Manchester United under pressure. I think it's a case of can they keep things tight at the other end. Really, they're playing with such confidence at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it should have been 4 or 5-1 against Villa, against Fulham, a very good Fulham team. There was a spell in the second half where they could have had 4 or 5 goals. So, yeah, very, very sort of creative and hungry at the moment. And it's still hard to make head and tail of Manchester United, isn't it? I worked on the United Southampton game as well, and there were signs of a team developing, but at the same time, they were sort of clinging on at times as well. So yeah, it's still difficult to get a strong steer on them. They still look vulnerable to me. I think that back four is new, and Arsenal can certainly get at them. And I would back Arsenal to score at least once in the game, possibly twice, and that would make it hard for them to be beaten, in my opinion. So yeah, because of Manchester United, I mean, Rashford barely got a kick at the weekend. As an attacking force, they scored a wonderful goal, but there wasn't a lot else. They got 1 day's less rest, of course. They're playing Leicester tonight, so we don't know how they're going to come out of that either. So that is an advantage, I think, for Arsenal. So yeah, my pick here, I was looking at Arsenal to win the game and over 1.5 goals. That was a nice, juicy price. That was over 3. I think it was on 3. I was looking at potential goals as well, but I've settled on Arsenal draw no bet because I think it's entirely plausible that they'll at least avoid defeat in the game. They're certainly playing well enough to go there and yeah, put down a statement victory, really. But it's just this is what I see with my eyes. But in reality, you know that sooner or later the numbers game will catch up with Arsenal, and this winning streak has to end, and there will be a bump in the road. I just hope it's not a Manchester United because from Arsenal fans are loving it at the moment, and I think they would revel in a win there.
The funny one with that bet too, AC, is that you're probably better off sometimes maybe waiting for this price. If United win at Leicester on Thursday tonight when we're recording, you're probably getting a slightly better price on.
No, Thomas Partey isn't a big one. Yeah, I think it's a good shout, by the way. So that's the blow. I think Zinchenko might be back for it. Pretty sure Ødegaard will shake off what I think is a bruised foot. So they should be okay. There was a slight doubt over Aaron Ramsdale. Hopefully he'll come out of that game okay as well. But yeah, providing Arsenal going with a strong 11, I think they're more than capable of winning and maybe at worst drawing the game.
Miguel, Delaney, I think you're fancying under 2.5 goals your selection, or you're thinking that it could be a defensive game and the defenses might be on top. But talk to me briefly about Manchester United's transfer deadline days we're recording. We can say that paying €100 million for Anthony, that wasn't good business, right? This is just the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that tweet you put out earlier. We were talking about pre-recording. For people who don't follow you on Twitter, the figures that's spent in the Premier League and La Liga is next is a net spend.
Oh yeah, and that's just net spend. Right? I mean, the gap is even greater if you go to gross. So the Premier League is spent net as at the moment we're speaking. It'll go up before the day is out. 1.3 billion. The next highest in terms of net spend, and I suppose this is relevant because it's all about the money the Premier League is spending everywhere else, is 55 million. I mean, it's an absurd gap. But even in gross, so what the gap there is 1.2 billion. The gap in gross, the Premier League has spent 2.15 billion this window so far. The next in terms of gross is Italy, which is 780 million, I think. So it's even higher. And again, the Anthony fee is a reflection of that. I mean, that was a remarkable situation because literally on Saturday, I was talking to someone involved in that deal. and they were saying to me that it's very touch and go, just because Ajax went into the typical Ajax, always planned very well.
Yeah.
And they'd kind of gone into the summer legislating, all right, we'll let 3 to 4 senior players go, and after that we can rebuild. We can use the money to replenish our squad. So they never wanted to sell Anthony, and then suddenly United come in with it's almost as if there was no limit to what they could go to. At least in kind of the context of a Dutch club. So while Ajax didn't want to sell, what it came down to was basically this is too much money to leave on the table, and hence they did the deal. Again, on the United side, I do wonder whether, because they've gone over their budget for this window, well over, because initially at the very start, I think it was only supposed to be around 80 million for a midfielder and someone else, and De Jong was the ideal there. I do wonder, had they not signed Anthony for that price, I think they might have been a bit more active today. They were having a little bit of a look around today, maybe as regards a right back, but at the moment it doesn't seem like they're going to do anything. It might return to it in January. I suppose what's this do? I mean, the Anthony one's an interest. I mean, he's obviously a huge talent. He's got a record of a goal every 3 games in the Dutch league. That's good at his age, but it's only 2 years of proper experience in Europe. United have a lot of that type of player. He's got to adapt. It just seems such a high price for so much uncertainty. Now, I suppose the other side of that is Erik ten Hag knows him better than any of us.
Yeah. He knows the potential is there.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly what it solves in the United team, but it might make them more cutting edge. But just in relation to this game, I mean, even in this game, I don't think this is going to be defined by United's attack. I think this is going to be a dogged game, primarily just because of the fact that, and it's why I've gone in my bet. I've gone low with the goal scoring. Obviously, Ten Hag doesn't have United playing as he wants them, but it's not his ideal. But to compensate for that, he actually, to be fair to him, he's got them there's a bit of an edge to them again. They showed it against Liverpool, and they also showed it against Southampton, where they're able to dig in. So I think it'd be similar against an Arsenal team who maybe rarely in the history of this fixture, recent history of this fixture, it'll be Arsenal who probably have the initiative and more of the ball. But then the flip side to that is, I think one of the most improved parts of Arsenal's game is their defense. I know they've conceded a little bit in recent games. I think that was more kind of situational due to the teams they were playing, and maybe almost and Villa's goal was a complete freak. We'll come to that later. But it's one of the areas in the team that's almost he's got as he wants Arteta, and I probably lean towards an Arsenal win, I have to say, but I think this is going to be a tight game with few goals as a consequence of all that.
Yeah, Mark, I think you're in a similar line. I think you're finding it hard to pick a winner here, so your selection has been the draw.
Yeah, I can pick out negatives in both teams. I think it's going to be a useful barometer for Man United to see how far they've progressed. Very convincing against Liverpool, very unconvincing, I felt, against Southampton. This game is taking place just 3 days after that Leicester match too, so there could be a bit leggy. Could be a few rotations going on, potentially against Leicester rather than against Arsenal, because this is the bigger game. But that is a slight concern for Arsenal. Adrian's touched on it already, but injury-wise, Thomas Partey is a big miss. The points per game when he is in the team to when he's out is quite significant, actually. I think it's about 0.6 points per game difference. And just there's doubts about Zinchenko, Ramsdale and Ødegaard. So right now, without knowing the full team news before Sunday, I can't back Arsenal, particularly as favourites away at Old Trafford. Obviously said at the start there, Sully, that the market's moved in favour of them, but I know they've made some decent progress, but the schedule has been relatively kind for Arsenal so far, and this is arguably their biggest test so far. So, yeah, I just want to see Arsenal go to Old Trafford and put on a performance, because too often they go into these big games, particularly away from home against the better teams, and either they underwhelm or they just fall short, really. And it's 8 defeats, 4 wins and 2 draws away under Arteta against big 6 teams, or top 6 finishers, I should say. They've had a decent history of winning at Chelsea recently. Did win here in 2020, 21, but lost last year 3-2 when they went into the game with high hopes, really. So improved defensively, of course they have, but I think I was looking towards goals here, kind of flying in the face of what Miguel was saying, but I just think injuries right now is enough to put me off, and just not knowing what we're going to get from United still. I just need a bit more time to sort of work them out and see where they're at. So draw felt like a fair enough. I can see it probably being a 1-1.
Yeah, there's been a lot of drawn games, a lot of drawn games in this fixture. Can I just say, I had it in good authority that Ten Hag has done a classic U-turn tactically. I think we've probably all seen that ourselves, but like in pre-season, basically he was bollocking anyone that made a long pass. Just it was like, no, stop. We're not doing that. We're not playing that way. I'll tell you what, against Southampton, there weren't many short passes. There were a lot of balls from back to front that were boomed. He has done a big tactical shift after.
But you know what? You have to kind of tip your hat there, don't you? Sometimes, Adrian, sometimes guys can get too stubborn, but that strikes me that he's more of a pragmatist than we probably realised to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I agree. And it was the right thing to do against Liverpool, maybe against Southampton because they got the win. But the players will be thinking, hang on, he was so married to that, and now he wants us to do this. There's a little bit of confusion there. So I'm a bit like Mark. I want to sort of wait and see what sort of United side develops.
And that's that's the underlying thing. Like I said, we're recording on Thursday, we're playing Thursday night. So for this one, this isn't going to be a big bet for anyone, I would suggest. But under 2.5 seems to be probably the best play here for me. 2.1.